Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of U.S. History Made Plain. I'm a high school history teacher trying to make history as fun and interesting for my students as possible. So as it turns out, books actually had a big role in changing how people saw slavery because a man named Hinton R. Helper actually wrote a book in 1857 that had a big impact on what people thought about when they thought about slavery. Helper was actually from the South, though. He was a man from North Carolina, and he wrote a book called Impending Crisis of the South. And what this did was talk about the evils of slavery or the bad things about slavery, but from a different angle than what Harriet Beecher Stowe talked about. So Harriet Beecher Stowe talked about the horrors and terrors of what slave masters did and how they treated their slaves. Helper talked about the numbers, the facts, the statistics of how much money and how many people are in the areas in the North as opposed to the South, and how much money they're bringing in, how much revenue they're bringing in. And he came to the conclusion that slavery was actually weakening the economy in the South. It was not beneficial to the South at all. People in the South did not like to hear this. Their fellow Southern brother was out here bad-mouthing their economy, and he's saying, y'all, slavery ain't really that good anyway. Like, we can let it go because we'll probably make more money when we let it go anyway. And they definitely banned his book real quick. They was like, yo, shut up. Like, shut up, for real. What are you doing? What are you on our side or not? What are you doing? They took his book off the shelf. They didn't let nobody read it. They said that he was evil. He didn't know what he was talking about. And so it was a big deal when that book came out. The South went so far as to deem books that were anti-slavery as evil and against the Bible. And so they removed them from all the shelves and tried to get them out of the hands of everybody in the South because they didn't want anyone to believe what the things that they were writing. But understand, Impending Crisis of the South was all about numbers. It was all about facts. So it wasn't like he was making things up and saying how he felt. He was saying, these are the numbers and numbers don't lie. And the South did not like that. The South eventually tried to argue that the relationship between a slave and a slave owner is a familial bond. And so they were doing harm by trying to break up slavery or end slavery because you're taking family away. Like, y'all pushing it. Y'all doing too much. You're doing too much at this point. They also said that the factory workers in the North were wage slaves. And so they were basically doing the same thing, but working in these dark, dank factories and mines. And it was just as bad to do that than working, with your family member out in the fields of the South. Like, they tried it. Some Southerners tried to write books to counter the arguments and ideas of these other anti-slavery books, but it didn't work because the damage was already done because the seed had already been planted.